The story told about the statue of a happy prince and a swallow who was left by his flock to Egypt. The prince used to live happily in his castle with a tall wall. All he knew was the happy things because he had never gone everywhere and kept ignorant of any suffering and sadness outside of the wall. He just spent the rest of his life inside the castle with his friends. His life was full of happiness and joyful. That was why he was called as Happy Prince. As the time flew, the happy prince passed away. Upon his death, a statue was made depicting him, which was covered in gold, had beautiful sapphires for eyes, and a ruby attached to his sword-gilt. Instead of those luxury, his heart was made of lead. Because of the beauty of the statue, the people thought that it was useful and so many people adored him. One night, there was a bird flew to him and shaded under his feet. Suddenly, the swallow got wet of water drops, which was actually the tears of the prince. He realized it and started to find out why the prince cried. The prince told him that this is for the first time he became the witness of the pain and the misery experienced by the poor of the city, of whom he had remained ignorant. Further, he told the swallow that in a small alley there was a shabby house in which there was a poor woman who was a seamstress. Her son was ill and wanted to eat orange. Unfortunately, she had nothing to give him except the water. The prince asked the swallow to pick out the great ruby from the prince's sword. At first, the swallow refused to do so, but the prince kept persuading him and finally he fulfilled his orders. The swallow picked the ruby up and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town to give it to the seamstress. After he did a favor of the prince, he said goodbye to the prince because he wanted to go to Egypt to be with his flock in Egypt. But the prince wanted him to stay longer. He granted the wish of the prince. In the next day, the prince told that far away across the city, he saw a young man in the carrot. He slept and his face was covered by sandpapers. He was working on a script of a play and looked extremely exhausted. The prince asked the swallow to pluck one of his eyes, which was made of sapphires, up to be given to the man. The swallow did what the priest had ordered and flew away to the carrot. He put the sapphire on his violet. The young man woke up and was surprised to see it. He thought the stone was from a secret fan and felt greatly appreciated. He became so excited to finish his work.
The swallow flew back to the prince and said that he wanted to go to Egypt, but the prince asked him to stay one more night. He again fulfilled what the prince wanted. Then the prince started to talk about a little match girl. She had let the matches fall into the gutter, and they were all spoiled. Her father would beat her if she didn't bring home some money. The prince wanted the swallow to pluck the other eye up to be given to the girl. This time, the swallow refused the order because the prince would be blind. Instead of giving up, the prince kept begging the swallow to do what he wanted. Finally, the swallow agreed the wish and flew away as fast as he could to the girl. He put the sapphire on her palm. The little match girl looked so happy and went home. The prince asked about his plan to go to Egypt and gave him permission to go. This time, the swallow didn't want to go there anymore, for the prince was blind, so he wanted to always stay with him. All the next day, he told the prince about what he had seen during his flight across the city. The stories were so amazing. Then the prince asked the swallow to fly again across the city to see what was happened there. He saw two boys were lying under a bridge. They were holding each other to keep warm and looked in hunger. Moreover, there was a guard who came to drive them away. The swallow flew back to the prince and told all what he saw. The prince asked him to take his gold off to be given to the boys. Then he did so. They were so happy because now they could buy some food. The winter is coming. Thus, the swallow felt so cold. He tried to warm himself by using spices that he got from a baker. He flew to the shoulder of the prince and told that he would be gone soon. As the result, the prince was so glad because the swallow would go to Egypt finally. Unfortunately, what he meant by going away was not to Egypt, but he would die soon. The swallow said a goodbye to the prince. Eventually, he lied at the feet of the statue and died from exposure and exhaustion. He never made it to Egypt because he changed his dream of warm climates and comfort with a bigger dream to bring help to those who were in need. The statue cracked with the sadness at the loss of his friend, and his heart was exposed. Upon seeing the statue in such despair, the counselor and the mayor of the city decided to remove the statue because he was no longer beautiful, so that he was no longer useful. However, both the swallow and the prince went to heaven because they had done the good deeds. The end.